Welcome everyone, viewers of Sports Trend and Sports Talk. Today we are having a very special program with very special people for cricket in Canada. Today, as we all know, that the cricket has been suffered all over the world. The sports have been um, suffering because of the COVID and all these things going on. And today we are going to talk about the return of the play. But first, let me introduce my guest here. So we have none other than they will be joined by the president of Cricket Canada, Mr. Ranjit Saini. Soon he'll be joining us. We have Bajwa Rashpal Bajwa, the vice president of Cricket Canada. Welcome, Rashpal.
Thank you.
Okay, Rashpal has been vice president since 2016. He also the former president of British Cricket BC, and he is heading of this committee, Return to Play Guideline Committee. Also, I've joined Ingleton Liburd. Ingleton, welcome.
Thank you.
Ingleton is general manager for Cricket Canada. His profile is big. He has been involved in cricket for a long time. He played for Cricket Canada with the cricket national team under 25 and also national team. Um, he's been president of the St. Kitts Cricket Association also. And he's been the general manager for 2014. With that, we also have Mr. Garvin Budhoo. He's the president of Manitoba Cricket Association. Garvin, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And none other than we have David Liverman. He's the guideline committee member. He was also the president of Cricket Newfoundland. And very interestingly, he has a big part of, and he was one of the founding member of Crick Info, and is very heavily involved with cricket in Canada. So welcome, David, also.
Thank you very much.
Right. And we have been joined by our president of Cricket Canada, Ranjit Saini. You know, our viewers have been seeing him. We have some interviews, very lengthy conversations with for the benefit of our viewers. So let Ranjit Bhai join, and then we'll start the proceedings for our. So till he is joining, we have got the return to play for cricket in Cricket Canada, right? And I think Ranjit Bhai is there, and we will add him. Welcome, Ranjit Bhai. Hello. Can you hear us? Okay, Ranjit Bhai, are you able to hear us?
Apparently not.
No, he's probably not hearing.
Yeah. Probably still saying.
Hello, Ranjit Bhai, are you able to hear us? Let me get it. Okay, let's start the program, and we talk about the return to play guidelines. How important are they, and what is the role for return to play guideline? Rashpal Bhai, we'll start with you.
Thanks a lot for first of all, Farooq, for organizing this event, and I'm glad that Ingle, Garvin, and David have joined this. Just one correction in Garvin's introduction. He's a former Cricket Canada player too, so just wanted to mention that.
Sorry about that. I didn't know.
I mean, I think cricket, as we after this COVID, somehow we had to get back to the field, and this whole committee was formed, which I headed. But I would be lying if I say I did any of the part. Most of the work was done by David Liverman and Ingleton. They came up with all the policies, all the guideline requirements. So I think David is probably the better person to tell us what exactly it started off with and what we did. I think I see Ranjit also joining us. So welcome, Ranjit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think everybody across the country was wondering how they can get back to playing cricket. Everybody has their own specific issues. Each league is different. Each province is different. But we felt that it would be useful to have some general guidelines to help leagues, clubs, provinces get back on the field. And so I was nominated to the committee for Cricket Newfoundland and Labrador, but also had already been doing quite a bit of work on this for our own purposes in the province. But fortunately, the ICC came out with a very good document when we were just establishing the committee. And that made actually the process a lot easier, because the ICC, actually I was somewhat surprised that they did not just look at international cricket, they looked at the community level of cricket and came up with some very practical guidelines. They have the expertise, they've got a medical committee with medical expertise in. That's not something that is easy for us to draw on as a national sports organization. And so basically myself and Ingle took the ICC document and adapted it as general guidelines for use in Canada. So that was the process, and then I'm assuming I was just part of the committee that it went through the board approval process before it was released.
Okay, so, and meanwhile, Ranjit Saini, the President of Cricket Canada, is also joined us. Welcome, Ranjit bhai.
Hey, thank you for inviting me, and I want to say hello to all other your guests, and very nice you put together this show, and hopefully everybody gets something out of it.
It will be like when I asked Ranjit bhai last week that we want to, we Cricket Canada is making the guidelines, but our viewers, would like to know what the guidelines are. So Ranjit bhai said, it's great idea, but Rashpal is heading the committee, and also talk to him, and then Ingleton and all these people. So thank you everybody to accept my invitation and come to this program. So anybody want to say something about the guideline, and then we'll go with the committee members and take their feedbacks.
If I can just add to what David said, is that because I'm sure the question might come up, is the guideline that we've set out is basically saying what you do when you get back on the field. It's not giving a timeline, because every province is going to be different. I received the document last night, which I need to go over some more, and also we'll attend a webinar on Wednesday that seemed to suggest that we can move as an NSO, that we can move to the next stage, which is starting to have training for national players and members of the Cricket Canada. So I have to get clarity on that, and then you let everyone know if we can move that stages yet.
Sure.
You see, Farooq, the health system in Canada and the local controls on grounds, all three levels of government are somewhat involved in it. While provincial guidelines are there, it's really the municipalities which lease the grounds to the leagues and so forth. So there are regulations and requirements at all levels of the government. And I was told, and the only day for yesterday, I found out accidentally in my usual call with Garvin that Manitoba has given guidelines, and cricket is open in Manitoba. I was very happy to hear that. Yesterday I came to know that Nova Scotia has now followed with the same, and they've been allowed and given authority to open cricket again. So sooner or later I think it's going to open in all provinces. I've been advised that in Ontario they're still in phase 1, so it's going to take a little while for the cricket to open up in Ontario. But these two provinces, to the best of my information at this moment, have cricket is open. Other than that, I think the guidelines are guidelines, but still they require provincial and municipal approvals. So from the national body, we wanted to put together a document which could help provincial level and the local leagues and the municipalities to go back to another document and see, if the guidelines meet their criteria, or if they want to have something, more added to their local environment for whatever reasons.
Okay.
I also understand that there's a question of liability that several years ago, I think 15, 20 years ago, a bicyclist in Brampton had an accident in a park, and all of a sudden, and the liability, the liability rules, the insurance went up for municipalities. Municipalities are also going to be concerned is the legal aspect of opening cricket, in the sense that if somebody gets, gets the corona into their system from a cricket field, or perceived idea that they got it there, then municipalities want to secure themselves from possible liability. So it's a bit more complex matter than simply Cricket Canada issuing guidelines. Our document is intended to support and help the grassroots level, the local bodies to receive and their recommendations from their municipalities and provincial government and so forth. From Cricket Canada perspective, if we end up doing some national events or provincial events or so forth in any given province, Cricket Canada will have to work and cooperate and follow the guidelines which are applicable to the particular ground where we are playing. So, members and Rashpal, the Vice President, and the members, and thank you, David, for contributing heavily towards this report. So it was an idea that we thought will be good, and it will be a good support to grassroots level cricket organizations to approach their municipalities and local jurisdictions to receive in order to start cricket again. So that was our objective.
Right, that's great. Thank you. So I'll go back to Rashpal and Ingleton. Like how this whole thing worked, and we'll go to Garvin also, and to find out what is special they have done, so they got the permission to play cricket. Because here we're trying in Ontario all possible things that we are not getting any permission to play. So Rashpal Bhai and Ingleton, please. Tell us what this, firstly, why do we need a guideline? And then what are the basic points of these guidelines?
Farooq, I think after this corona, everything has changed. Even the way we live, things have changed. So the way we are going to play cricket has to change too with the time. I think these guidelines, just the guidelines that how the game is going to be played, the way Ranjit was saying, these guidelines are not, we haven't decided when they can play, how they're going to play. It's just the way the cricket is going to be played. Because it's going to be based on all your provincial governments, the health departments, the national, when they're going to, what province, and it's going to be different in different province. As we stand, as Ranjit was saying, Manitoba has already started playing. And then he said Nova Scotia is playing. I just spoke to somebody in PEI. David told me that this is their second week that they have started playing cricket. But cricket cannot be played the same way we were playing earlier, because this is not the same times. With this, our normal has changed. We can now be living with a new normal, which is wearing a mask and keeping that social distance. So at the end of the day, this guideline was needed. How are we going to conduct on the ground, how the game is going to be played, how the social distancing is going to be maintained, how we can follow the protocols that are given by our provincial bodies in our sport that we are doing on a weekend, every weekend, and how we can help so that people have that understanding before they go on the field, how the game is going to be played. Engel add on? I'm not
Yeah,
one of those who just keep talking. I think he's probably going to tell you in detail what exactly, how the ball's going to be handled, how the stumps are going to be handled, how the social distancing is going to be maintained. So go ahead,
Ingleton
Engel.
is very quiet guy. I would love to, hear him.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. What Rashpal says is correct. I mean, we have to. It's a new world now. New normal. Social distancing is important. So, I mean, we've seen ICC guidelines where they say that you can't you can't spit on the ball, you can't put saliva on the ball and stuff. But they seem to think that there's some their medical advice says that you can use sweat on the ball. So we have to look at those things about even. Let's get back to even say practicing. When we start to practice, how do we go about that? Do we give balls to one bowler and say, those are your balls for the next month? You don't share them. When the batsman hit the ball, it drops in front of them. Don't pick it up, you kick it back, that kind of stuff we have to get involved. Also, do we have enough sanitizers at the facility? Do we have facilities that can make sure that everybody's 6 feet apart from each other? Because cricket is a team sport where we normally sit on the bench and stuff like that. So I think these are the little things that we have to do. Guys normally pick up each other and drive to the ground, but are you going to be allowed to do that? If you're not in the same household, you have to be mindful of driving by yourself. And what Ranjit said earlier about liability, what waivers do we have to put in place to make them sign? But I think that David might have mentioned earlier to the waivers, something you sign them, but some smart lawyer will find a way to get around it. But at least we've done enough to try and protect ourselves. These are the things that we really have to sit down and discuss with the players and enforce it, because we have bad habits as cricketers, and it's so simple just to go back into the high fives, the hugging and stuff when you do something well. But you have to learn just to touch your feet. I watched the St. Vincent Premier League, and it was interesting to watch these celebrations. It came up with new celebrations. So, I think Garvin, who has already started playing, maybe can tell us some of the things that they did.
yeah.
So some of the things that back in April, when Sport Manitoba asked us, they said, you guys should start putting together some sort of a protocol that you want to implement, submit to them if you're going to plan on getting back to cricket. So we started putting together our protocol, and it was very happy to see back in May, sometime in May, that ICC came up with their protocols, and most of our protocols was already in what the ICC had. So it was very easy sell for us to submit to Sport Manitoba, and then it went to the provincial government, and then last Monday we get approval to start playing. So some of the things we suggested that we were going to do was sanitizing. Of course, we were going to supply all players with the small 50 milliliter sanitizer, and they will keep it on themselves during the game, and they'll do sanitizing on a regular basis. The umpires are going to be wearing masks. There's going to be no touching of the ball by the batsman nor the umpire, only the bowlers. And every time a fielder touches the ball, they'll have to hand sanitize. We've also have abundance of sanitizers off the field so that the players can hand sanitize when they go into the washroom facilities, for example. Lots of soap and water. And the biggest thing that we know that we could get reprimanded for is sitting on the sidelines. That's going to be very tough because we know that people like to sit together. So we've already made it clear to them that there is going to be no benches. You have to bring your own chairs, and we will have an appointed inspector from the cricket association is going to be going to all the fields randomly, of course, and inspect. So I'm putting together a checklist for them to check off and sign off on the date so that we can present that to the Sport Manitoba if it's requested. So they'll have to have their chairs 6 feet apart. No celebration on the field, and so the inspector is going to be observing. Spend a couple hours on each field. And as you guys know, in Winnipeg we have 3 fields in one area, so it's going to be easy for him to observe. Spend more time there observing 3 games. And then the Libera Park, there's 2 fields there. So another person is going to be spending quite some time there looking at 2 games. So we will have those 2 fields covered, and we'll be looking out for things like celebrating, making sure that they're sitting apart. Everybody brings their own chairs, and like you guys had said, Ingle, arriving at the field, we have to make sure that people travel by themselves unless they live in the same household. They can carpool, but some of those things we may not be able to control. But once they're at the field, we'll have some control over them. And then after the game, because we plan, our season is shortened, we plan on playing 2 games a day on the ground. So after the game, there's a period where they have to get out of there before the next team arrives. So the next team, when they're they stay in the parking lot, and when the other teams are cleared, then they can come onto the field. So we want to make sure we have a 50 people maximum. So we have to ensure that no more than 50 people is on the field at a time. And these things were all put into our guidelines and protocols that we submitted to the government.
So I have a quick question. You say like every time the ball touches the field or fielder touches the ball,
yeah,
it's sanitized like their hand or the ball? What
the
is
hand.
sanitized?
The hand.
The hand.
Yes.
Okay.
So they have sanitizer on them, and they'll be using that to sanitize their hands. The wicketkeeper can't be more than 2 steps to the wicket. So it doesn't matter if the spinner is bowling, he has to stay back 1 step, because we're assuming that the batsman is 1 step away from the stumps.
Yeah.
So that would be your 6 feet.
Right.
Okay.
No slip. But if they want to use slip, then the slip has to be 6 feet away from the keeper. And then among themselves, they have to be 6 feet. So social distance on the field is going to be mandatory as well.
Yes, good to know, Garvin, because you are already implementing all that, and the other people are just talking about it right now. And this is
it's going to be a challenge, because we've caught some guys playing last week, and they were on the sidelines and they were putting their hand on their shoulder, and so it's going to be a challenge.
I think we're gonna keep an eye on all the sanitizers, because we're gonna have different kind of sanitizers and is be applying on the ball, and
Well,
all kind of ball tempering things going on. Then.
Yeah. Well, we're only playing 30 overs, so we limit it to 30 overs. We try to get a shortened game and try to get games a day so that everybody has a chance to play.
So what I see so far is so the guidelines are mainly, Cricket Canada is putting a guideline, or it did put a guideline together in the light of ICC guidelines, and you're going to pass it on to the provinces and associations, right?
Well, I think that the way to look at it is that the guidelines are there and they're used in a number of ways, but every province has different requirements. But many provinces, I've seen 3 or 4, one of their requirements in a return to play plan for a specific sport is following the National Sport Organisation guidelines. So that's why it was very important that Cricket Canada had those guidelines in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but in every province, the most important thing is going to be the local conditions and guidelines. And we need to be clear: you can't go back to playing cricket unless the level of the virus is so low in the community that it is almost a very low probability that anybody at the field is going to be infectious. And so that's why PEI, who've only had a total of 27 cases, all of which have recovered, are back playing. Manitoba has a very low incidence. We're hoping to be back to practice soon. We have a very low incidence. But if you go to BC or Alberta or Ontario, it's going to be a public health decision whether you even think about these guidelines. So the one part of it is using as a tool to talk to your public health group because a lot of them won't understand cricket very well. So we need to demonstrate that we understand our sport and we understand how the health implications of our sport. But the second thing that we have to really concern ourselves is making sure that our players are taking part in a safe environment. And that's where the guidelines may well go beyond what a public health requirement is. For instance, here locally, it looks as though we have to abide by some very general guidelines,
okay,
and we'd be allowed to go back. but that's not good enough because it doesn't deal with the specifics of cricket, which, notably the sharing of one ball. That's probably the biggest issue at all. The general guidelines deal with social distancing, cleaning surfaces, all these other things. But we need to understand our sport and how we can apply the specifics of it. And so it sounds as though Garvin's done a really good job in thinking it through. And there's little things in the ICC guidelines which really help us. Things like we're used to, you're coming on to bowl, you hand your jersey, your sunglasses, and your hat to the umpire. Well, that's not going to be happening any longer. No. And that is a change which I think is going to be long term. We're not going to see that changing until this vaccine is until a vaccine is there or the level of virus in the community is zero. So we, as Ingle said, we're going to change the way we play the game, and we need to be ready to adjust and change for the long term.
We have a couple of questions. Do you guys want to take the questions, or you want to take the question at last? How do you want?
Up to you.
You can take the questions. Yeah.
I have some very powerful people sitting in front of me, so.
Yeah, we'll take the questions.
Not me.
Ranjit is the most powerful.
So,
well, the higher you are up, the least powerful you are.
yeah. Oh, I can turn on all the cameras. I have the power right now. Okay, so we'll talk about the guideline. We'll take them questions. So the first question we have is Nasir Ali Khan said, what about every fielder wearing gloves and mask? Is it possible? Is it any possibility for that or no?
I would say that these guidelines should be looked at as a minimum requirement. So if any individual is not comfortable in the situation, or a league or a province wants to make them more stringent, they should do so. But we're following the ICC medical advice here. But I think if a fielder wants to wear protective gloves, in the laws where a fielder isn't allowed to wear gloves in the part for a wicketkeeper, but we need to give latitude. If somebody wants to wear latex gloves, they should be allowed to.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, and it's certainly something that I will bring back to our league and talk about as well. As if anybody wants to wear gloves, then yeah, I think we should allow them.
You see, it's we should remember this, that it is in the end it is about protecting ourselves. We need to understand how this corona spreads. It spreads from things we touch, your knobs, water tap, and light switches, and sharing of things that go into other people's and other people's touch. So obviously, not only the ball, but during the match or in breaks or whenever you go to washroom, and then you could get it there depending on what the previous person condition was and how we touched the things you're going to touch now. So it is changing of the habits, and I've had a lot of change in my own life. I lived 57 years with my mom, and she spent all her life teaching me I should wash my hands before I eat. And now I cannot stop cleaning my hands throughout the year because I have 87-year-old father living with me in my house. So it is about us changing our own habits that we do not. If we happen to catch somehow, then we don't spread it, and the only way this problem is going to go away if we maintain that social distancing, which everybody has been talking about. But all governments, all leaders, all the health officials, everybody had been asking, and it was a matter that could have resolved if everyone had decided, it could have resolved itself in 14 days, but it didn't. It continues to grow. toward this world, because some of us do not maintain that distance and are not conscious enough that it is our responsibility also to take care of the situation and not contribute towards it. So the ball is an issue, and the bowler who is running past the umpire, and they are very close to it, and the bowler is also breathing at a very high rate because he's running. This can spread from there. So the umpires wearing masks, and anybody who is closer than 6 feet to each other, it will be an issue. Yes, the game will spread, but most of the precautions that are being introduced and being advised are simply good hygiene and good human practices.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of other viruses, the regular flu, no matter what, all sort of things that we give to each other during the year, nobody was concerned up to now because they were not deadly. But now this stuff is deadly, so it has brought certain level of social discussion and awareness that how these things spread and how we need to sort of modify our living habits and so forth. The handshake, for example, it's a very much I'm not going to say it's exclusive North American issue, but it's very much a North American issue. In many parts of the other world, people bow, people do namaste and all this stuff, but here we handshake when we meet each other. So all this, whether it's on field or off the field and wherever we are, it is about mending those habits that we have that contribute to the distribution of viruses. Coming back to cricket, I think it's going to be very important that other places that are shared by the players, maybe washroom, lunch places, and so forth, where they sit together, are going to be more of an issue than on field, because cricket is really a non-contact game. From that aspect, I think we qualify as it is without mask to play, but the only incident could be where the two fielders run into each other and so forth. So that would be the risk, but the amount of time you could be together and so forth will be minimal, and there's a potentially very little risk. But the places that we share and things we share is where the concentration has to be. That's something how I see it.
Good. So the second question I have from the Victor Sebastian. He's also umpire, very energetic umpire from GTA area. His question is, we just talked about sharing, right? What about the personal equipment of player? Do they have to have their own now, or because they share pads, gloves, sometimes helmet? How this?
And if I can take Victor's question, for this season, definitely, until we get over this COVID, players like club players and recreational players, we often share equipment, but this time around, you're going to have your own, because we can't afford to have guys sharing gloves, pads, and
helmet,
especially helmets, So you're going to have your personal equipment to play cricket, because it's going to cost you a bit more, but I'm sure that if you shop around, you get some cheap ones some places. So I think it's very important not to share equipment with others, because you don't know exactly how the viruses pass from person to person. So you don't want to have that passing fluids and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's bad for players, but good news for Yashi Sports,
Yeah.
We'll be making more money.
Yeah. So our guidelines say that sharing of equipment should be avoided if at all possible. But if you can't avoid it, then it needs to be cleaned appropriately. But something to think about there is how you can clean it appropriately. So pad straps, for instance, they don't get contact apart from just the putting them on, taking them off, and not too bad. But you can't clean a helmet at the field. That you really can't. So no matter what, people need to have their own helmet if they're going to wear a helmet. Similarly, batting gloves, a batting glove or wicket-keeping glove, that's going to be exposed very clearly to the hand. The material they're made of, you can't just rub hand sanitizer on it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So pads, maybe. Pretty much everything else, you need to get your own. And I've been looking around for some of our club teams. You can get, it's not a great helmet, but it's a workable helmet for $40 at a lot of the Canadian stores. Batting gloves for $25. So certainly locally here, we've told people, if you're not in the same household, don't share equipment, and go get your own before we start playing. So I think it's a common sense approach to it, but it is a way, we used to have maybe a couple of helmets and just pass them around. We can't be doing that anymore.
So basically, you're saying pads could be, and the bat. Now,
could be if you feel you can clean them appropriately or minimize the handling of them. The bat, you should be wearing gloves when you're handling the bat. Go back to the principle that the chances of somebody at the field being infectious have to be very low before we play a game.
Great.
So what we're looking at is, in the remote chance that somebody is infectious, we minimize the chance that it gets passed on. Great. So we need a common sense approach, but there's some things which you can't work around. Helmets and batting gloves for me are the critical ones.
So the question is, Mohammad Siraj Musa, he's also one of the dynamic umpires. A lot of questions coming from umpires. They look like very concerned about things. So the question is who will be monitoring the players and umpires to following the guideline? Do we have a cricket police now?
So what we plan doing in Winnipeg is we will appoint somebody on each field to do the inspection. Like I said, they'll have a checklist that they'll go through and submit it at the end of the day. So they'll be checking for all the things that we said we were going to do: hand sanitizing, social distancing, making sure people don't celebrate, people sitting on the sidelines, and some of these things you can notice very easily if people are hand sanitizing or celebrating or sitting on the sidelines. Some of the things that we can't state easily is if they're on the field, if they're talking, if they're batsmen or when they're batting, feelers. You have to keep an eye on them, make sure that they're keeping that distance. And then when they go to the bathrooms, we don't know what goes on in the bathroom, but we will have somebody there sanitizing the bathroom every hour. It's it's one of the guidelines that we use is somebody going there every hour, sanitize the bathroom.
But Garvin, my question is, will that gonna be implemented in Ontario, because it's a very large scale?
Right.
And the question is,
I think you need to.
Just quick question. I got a message that so the people are very quickly asking is, so the person you will be assigned to monitor all these guidance and rules and everything. Will they be paid people? Are the clubs gonna have to bear their expenses?
Yeah.
They're already paying for umpires?
I think, Farooq, this is something that the leagues will have to do. And as a national body, we came up with the guidelines.
Okay.
These guidelines are just the guidelines. Once the provinces, based on their own provinces, are going to make their own guidelines, the way Manitoba has done. I've been involved with the Cricket BC also, and we are coming up with our own guidelines. And that glove issue that
Ontario also already have their guidelines out.
And once the NSO, the PSOs are the ones that are going to be getting these guidelines approved. And once those guidelines are done, then the individual leagues will be allowed to play once the permits are issued. And this is going to be something, the policing will be done by the individual leagues. How it is going to be done, the way Garvin's saying, they're going to have people sending in every random grounds. And I think that is what, and it's going to evolve with time. I mean, everything is going to change with time. The way we are living now is changing. Even the game is going to change, and we are going to come up with new guidelines as like some of the new implementations are going to change as we play the game, and we find out that these are feasible and these are doable and this is how we can do it. I think this is a work in progress. Who's going to be paid and not paid, that is going to be individual leagues or once it gets started.
Yeah.
But I think overall, the leagues will have to make sure that their membership is educated with these guidelines, that we have to follow these guidelines if we want to play this game and not spread the game and continue playing the game that we love. So at the end of the day, the main purpose of this guideline is to educate through the leagues every individual how we're going to play this game with the new normal.
Yeah, and I think a really critical part of this is education and communication. And I've seen some of the questions coming across. A lot of people are really looking at local implementation. And as Rashpal said, every league, every province is different. You know, Manitoba, Newfoundland, Ontario, BC, they've all got their own ways of doing things. And they've got to think about how this works and whether it's a paid person monitoring, whether it's the umpire's responsibility. Are you going to give the umpires power to deal with issues on the field? That's going to have to be done at a local level because you understand your needs, you understand your leagues, you understand the abilities of your umpires, you understand what capacity you have in your organization to monitor. But I think the communication is critical and the monitoring of it is critical because firstly, it's the safety of the players is important, even if they may not be behaving safely themselves. But secondly, we need to demonstrate that we're responsible members of the sporting community in our municipalities and in our provinces. And it won't be just us that's watching these games. People come by, they watch the games. And if we are not responsible, then we're going to find cricket shut down. And so that is really important, but it is taken seriously at every level.
One of the things I should point out here is the Manitoba government has hired, I think, something like 1,200 people to go around to these parks and just observe what's going on. Because we've had this happen a couple of weeks ago where people come into the park. We were having a meeting and they said, are you guys allowed to be in this building? I said, yes, this is our clubhouse. They said, are you part of the association? I said, yes. They said, oh, okay, then you're exempted. But the point is, there are people coming and they're watching. And they've been identified now. These people, they have a special uniform that they wear. So you know they'll be around and they'll be coming. So with that in mind, we have to make sure that all our members understand that people are watching and we have to follow it. I know it's going to be a work in progress. It's going to be a learning curve. And somebody had asked a question if there's any penalty, and we haven't thought of any penalties yet. It's just a matter of reminding people that we have to do this. But if it gets to the point where there's going to be penalties or some kind of ramification for their actions, then I think that would have to look at later on. But it's a work in progress and something new for all of us.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of questions and comments, but I just want to rephrase, enforce the point just David just said, because this program is for the guidelines from the Cricket Canada, and there is like a the step down is the associations are also responsible to come up with their own guidelines according to their cities and municipalities and everything. So this is very high level, but this is a guideline set for the province, and provinces are coming, like Manitoba has, Ontario has their own guidelines, and guys would have the very questions, the very kind of lower level, like league level questions about expenses and everything. We will be sportsmen will be doing program with each provinces, whoever will be willing and available. So we'll have all those questions depending on, because I get some question for Ontario and EBDCL. So we will be taking those questions when we'll do the program with that association. Right now, we're just dealing with very high level Cricket Canada guideline for the associations. So I hope this is Rashpal, this is okay? Like, we are pretty much
I think I think this is just basically, this is a guideline that is developed by Cricket Canada, which is guideline to the provinces. And at the end of the day, So the way I said, I'm involved with the Cricket BC also, and David and Garvin have done it for their provinces. Uh, the provinces have to develop their own based on their own health, and then passing on to the leagues. The leagues might take it as a general and may step it up, like the way somebody suggested clubs. BCMCL here, a local league in British Columbia, is actually thinking about cricket has not started in BC, but they're thinking about using gloves instead of sanitizers. So leagues can go ahead and have their own guidelines based on whatever the guidelines are provided. It could be stringier than whatever the guidelines are provided by Cricket Canada or by the provincial and PSOs. So I think this is a step in right direction. Cricket has started in some provinces, and these guidelines are getting implemented. We will have some more input data from those provinces which are already doing it. And as we go, the way ICC is going to do it, same way Cricket Canada is going to say these are the new implementations. This is an evolving process. The way this corona has been going on, initially they were saying 6 feet is enough and gloves are enough or mask is enough. So in the same way, these guidelines are just the start, and we're going to evolve with the time as the game gets played on the field, and we will come up with some new implementation and procedures that will be passed on to the provinces and over to the leagues and to the clubs and to the players. I think the best job that we are doing right now is to so that we can get it to most of the people, that people should be aware. The education part, the way David was saying, education. I mean, we have to educate every player, and that cannot happen just by Cricket Canada. Cricket Canada communicates with the provinces. Provinces have to communicate to their leagues, so the league should now start talking to their players, so that clubs and players, so that everybody is educated enough for this when they get on the field. I mean, some of the provinces are already doing it, and the provinces that are not doing it, they are going to be doing it very soon. I see at the end of the season, everybody will have few games. Maybe some will have few and some will have more. But I think everybody, if things go in the right direction, the way it is going right now, I think we all will see some cricket in all the provinces.
Yes, Ranjit bhai, you want to say something?
Yes, just adding to what Rashpal is saying, from governance point of view, what can be implemented should also be that we are able to check it. So the favorite gloves being more favorite to BC, and then sanitizer makes sense, because wearing of the gloves is something can be uniform, can be checked, and can be verified, and can be required. Whereas if it's a sanitizer in the pocket, what quality it is, how much is being applied, how thoroughly is being applied after you touch the ball, and all those things. And then there are other variables. I was checking this morning, hearing this morning the WHO announcement, and now they say wherever their social distancing is not possible, now they're suggesting medical masks. Medical masks have 3 layers: the outside blue one, and there's some other filter in between, and there's this white filter inside. Medical masks are now being recommended for any place by WHO whereas social distancing is not possible. Before, the direction was any mask is okay. So there were all these kind of new, trendy masks were coming around with flowers, and I was hoping to see a Nike and Tiger Woods mask soon. But now the recommendation is wherever social distancing cannot be followed, there has to be a medical mask. That is the latest recommendation. Today it came out today or yesterday. So the fact is, at the end of the day, is still our own responsibility to safeguard ourselves. And if you're going to a common place where you don't know who was there before, you could be cleaning the washroom, sanitizing the washroom every 1 hour. But is there science to prove is every 1 hour it's okay to do it? That is something it will assess. But within the sanitization between the most recent person who went to the washroom and myself is what is important. So the only way to deal with this is that I protect myself. I go in with my gloves on. I have my own mask, and I do what I need to do, and I come out. So those are the things. Is self-discipline, is the change in the lifestyle, how we live and how we go forward, is what is going to take us out of this issue. It's yes, we have to implement minimum rules on the ground, rules that can be implemented also. So,
sorry,
protective gloves make more sense than sanitizers.
a couple of things too that we that we have to remember as well is signage. We have to put up signage where we have a clubhouse. Make sure that there's signage there, and if there's like in our facility we have 3 fields. We'll make sure that on each field there's signage to keep sanitizing, social distancing, and observe all the things in our guidelines. And the other one was people coming into the province. So if somebody leaves the province and they come in the province from the US or another province, the original restriction was they had to self-isolate for 2 weeks. But there are some truck drivers that does cross-border driving, and a lot of them actually play in our league. In fact, this morning we had an incident where one of them came to the meeting and he said he came home from the States last night. That's a violation. And we immediately sent him home. We told him he can't be part of this meeting. But I think the government has been lifting that they've been slackening off on the truck drivers going across borders or provinces. But the last 9 cases in Manitoba over the last few days has actually been truck drivers. They came back and they brought the disease with them. So that's something we'll have to be aware of, is people traveling from the States or into province.
Yeah. Good. There is just a small question, and somebody was asking, like, because there's additional expenses adding with not using, sharing. So will Cricket Canada will be subsidizing something for the players? So I don't know. I think it'll be.
Yes, I think they should.
I think
I've been trying to dig a tunnel between some big banks bought and Cricket Canada for 10 years. So far, I have not been able to do that.
Yeah. So as we said, there's a lot of questions. I'll be answered on the province level or a league level, and we will be sportsmen will be doing programs with available associations and their leagues. But it's a very big topic. We cannot wrap it up very quickly. We already passed 52 minutes live. We'll probably not gonna go. We'll try not to go more than 1 hour. So we have about 8 to 9 minutes. So if anything, Rashpal, you and your team and want to bring it, which is we missed anything.
If I can leap in and follow on from what Garvin said, is something we haven't really talked about so far. Cricket in Canada is a very international community. Mm-hmm. We come from all over. And it's inevitable that our players will be traveling out of the country for many of them, maybe for family reasons or whatever. And so the education part, that's probably the most likely way that we will get an infection on the field, is if somebody has brought it in from out of province, out of country, and has not isolated. Mm-hmm. So the education and communication, as Garvin said, I'm sorry you can't be in this meeting. You can't play this game. We're going to have to be insistent on that. We're going to have to be very firm on that. And we've got to make our players and umpires very aware of it. The other thing which is critical is that we need to know who has been at an event. So you need, in case there is an infection, then you've got to be able to contact trace. Yeah. So you need a list, an accurate list of everybody who was at that field at that time.
Yeah.
And that's the follow-up. So if unfortunately somebody slips through and they're infectious and something happens, then we need to be able to follow up. And so there's a lot of paperwork and monitoring and so on, a lot of administration. It's a big burden on every club, every league, every province. But I think we all want to play cricket, so we're willing to do it. So.
That's good. So, Rashpal, we'll start wrapping up. I'm sure, like, we're not missing big things, but if we are, this is not the first and last program. We'll be doing more program just to educate people, inform people. So, and lots of questions coming on. Some are not related right now and not related to a Cricket Canada level. So we'll take those questions. I'm gonna save those questions and we'll take it on to the province and league level question. So we'll about take your time, but brief to just wrap up this thing. We'll start from Rashpal bhai.
Yeah, no, Farooq, first of all, I want to thank you for organizing this event. The way we have been saying education, I think this is the first step in educating our people. If they can listen to us and say that these guidelines are important if they want to play cricket, and you have played a big part in that. So thank you very much for that. I want to thank the rest of the guys, especially David and Ingle, who actually helped formulate these guidelines for Cricket Canada. And thanks, Garvin, for starting the cricket. I think you are inspiration now for me so that BC can start it too. So thank you very much. I think we have covered most of it. And obviously, if there is any more developments or anything else, we will always shout at you and have another program on guidelines or what has been happening. I think there should be a follow-up program in months' time when how now the provinces are opening up, and then we can do something like that and come up with more solutions or problems that come across us. So thank you very much from my side.
Thank you. Ingleton?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. And I want to say to the persons out there, just be patient because seen in the news many times where guys have been charged for going on the parks. So you just want to know that, I mean, the fines are very deep. They're like $1,000 and up some of those fines. So just be patient. We will get back on the cricket field. I know the weather is great and you want to be out there, but I think in a month's time or so, we're hoping that we will get back on the field. Don't just respect the authorities. They know what they're doing. Each province case will be different. So don't think because Manitoba or PEI is playing cricket, then you should just get out and play. Because if you look at the numbers, like today I looked at the numbers with Toronto, Ontario. And I was actually shocked to see the numbers that we're having. I thought they were going down, but it looks like it's going back up.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to be very patient, and then we will get back on the field. And communication and education is going to be the key to getting through this.
Right. Thanks, Hilton. Garvin?
Well, thank you very much, like everybody said, for this opportunity. And, most of the guys here, they want to play cricket, and they've been trying to get out and contacting us and finding out what's going on, when are we going. So we put together this package to present to the government, and we're lucky in Manitoba because, like the guy said, the number is low, and so we were able to put together something and show the government that we'll be able to get cricket playing because it's not a contact sport. However, there's still that commonality, the ball, and we have to be very aware that the ball could be the conduit where this thing can be transmitted. So we just have to make sure that we hand sanitize and even the ball as well. At some time we'll have to get that clean as well. So it's going to be a learning process and lots of challenges ahead. But we want to play cricket, and we just have to do these things to get the game going.
Right. Thanks, David. Anything to wrap up?
No, just thank you very much. This is part of that communication and education process. It really helps to get the message out, and hopefully people can understand a little bit more about the process. And if you want to know what's going on with your league, talk to your provincial body. They can tell you what's going on locally and how likely you are to be able to be playing cricket soon, because PEI, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, we're very different to what's going on in Ontario. So every province is going to be different, but if we work together, we can come back and play safely, and that's the most important thing.
Yep. And that will be soon. No dates, no confirmation, but soon. Ranjit bhai?
Well, I think what the players are to make sure is that they stay physically fit. And so individual fitness, doing your regular exercise in your neighborhood, maintaining your local rules and following them is important. Wherever cricket is opening, it's also important that we follow the rules established by that jurisdiction in order to keep the sport open. So, a lot of self-discipline and again, a permanent change in our own living habits is what is going to make this happen. And we can't put the whole cricket in any province or in a league or in a city in jeopardy because some of us will not follow those rules, and that is going to be important. And I would say, sooner or later, I think the lifestyle is changing, the way we live is changing, the way we so sport will definitely change also. And I just want to wish everybody here good luck, and very happy to see everybody together and in this conversation. Good program and a lot of important information and sharing of the ideas with your viewers, and I hope you continue as well in future. Thank you for inviting us.
No, thank you very much. I just want to thank once again everybody, to take their time out and pass on all this information, all the good work. There's a lot of good work done by Cricket Canada and all the associations. And as a sports and the media, we feel that we need to promote and explain it more to the people. So we will be providing this platform to everyone, and we will, again, I'm saying, as the associations who will be available, we will be doing the program on the association and the league level. So once again, thank Ranjit bhai, thank you very much. David, thank you very much. Rashpal bhai, thank you very much. Ingleton, thank you. Garvin, thank you very much. Most of the people I talked to this first time, and it's an amazing and pleasure talking to everybody. So stay healthy, stay safe, stay home, and stay more safe. We will be coming back with more programs soon. So with that, the viewers, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed, and there were a lot of comments. We could not take it online, but we will be taking, I have saved them. We will be taking it onto the association or the league level program. But thank you very much, and keep watching the Sports Trend. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Sports Talk Radio. I was on live and